Hello everyone in the Facebook world, this is Rebekah with the Tailored Realty team. Today I am here to answer your burning questions of what is going on in the Twin Cities market. So I'm sure that there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of different things that are going on. Let's just list all the things that have happened this year. A, there's been a pandemic. B, it's been an election year, so every year during election years it's always a little bit different than any other year. We're also in the middle of winter, and of course the city has had a little bit of unrest. Just overall in the Twin Cities area, there's just been a little bit of unrest. So 4 major things that have happened within the Twin Cities this past year. So a lot of people are wondering, is it still a good time to buy? Is it still a good time to sell? So here's what I would say overall. So what's really surprising is that we have seen a pretty big difference this year versus last year. So let me look at my notes here. So what our studies are showing here is that we have about 60% less homes on the market in the suburbs this year versus last year. However, the houses that are on the market are seeing about 150% increase in showings this year versus last year. That is huge. That number is really important to know because what this is saying is that there still are lots of buyers that are out there wanting to buy, and in fact, there's way more buyers that are out there than sellers that are willing to sell. So it still is a seller's market. Now, the stats that I gave you, those are actually only applicable to the suburb areas. Specifically, the suburb that I pulled was Maple Grove because we're in Maple Grove. But the stat is very similar amongst the entire suburb area. What is different is the city itself. So the city itself is virtually flat this year versus last year, both with the number of listings on the market and with the showing activity. So the city is virtually flat versus last year. However, the suburb areas have less inventory on the market and more buyers than even last year wanting to buy those particular homes. So it's an interesting dynamic, and what this is showing us is that it's even more of a seller's market this year than what it was last year. So a fair market has about 6 months worth of inventory. Our area has about 1 month worth of inventory. So it's very much a seller's market in the Twin Cities area. So the question that I get asked all the time is, gosh, do I think that the market is going to crash? Is there some sort of indication that housing prices are going to change or that there's going to be a major shift in the dynamic that we're seeing in the Twin Cities area? And the short answer for that is no. So the Twin Cities is fairly isolated because we have Fortune 500 companies. We have actually the most number of Fortune 500 companies than any other city in the nation, per person, I should say. So the Twin Cities generally is fairly isolated because we have an influx of people moving into the Twin Cities area for jobs and not just a lot of people moving out of the area. So it is a really tough question to answer because of course we don't have a crystal ball, but what I can say is that every year we're seeing housing prices appreciate every single year and we're not seeing any sort of decline. Right now, especially with the 4 things that I had mentioned still going on in this year, even more so, we're seeing it be a seller's market. We're seeing a lot of buyers wanting to buy, but not as many sellers that are willing to sell. So those are, excuse me. So those are good things showing that our market overall looks really good. So it still is a really good time to invest your money into real estate because we don't see any sort of indication of this slowing down. And you might say, but Rebekah, what about forbearance? Is forbearance going to have a huge impact on what is happening in the Twin Cities market? The short answer for that is, I don't know. But the longer answer is, I don't think so. So there's a lot of economists out there that are saying that overall, not just in the Twin Cities, but in the entire United States, that forbearance probably is not going to have a huge impact on what the housing market looks like. The reason being for that is because we are still seeing a shortage of inventory, and so home prices have appreciated. And what that means is that even if somebody is in forbearance, they can likely sell their house for more money than what they owe to the bank and just get out of forbearance entirely. So we don't anticipate that there's going to be this huge influx of foreclosures or anything like that having a huge major dynamic shift on the market. So basically what I'm saying here is that there's a shortage of inventory. So the suburbs are having a lot less inventory than they even had last year, 60% to be exact. So 60% less houses on the market than this time last year. But showings have increased by 150% in the suburbs versus last year. So more buyers are willing to buy than sellers are willing to sell. In the city itself, the dynamic is completely flat. So the same number of houses on the market and the same number of showings per house in the actual city itself. So those things are all looking really good. So if you are a buyer, is it still a good time to buy? The answer is yes, because there's no indication that the housing prices are going to go down. In fact, they will likely go up. They will continue to likely go up, and we also might see an increase in our interest rates. Now, I know that we had Oliver White here last week. He was talking about interest rates, and he said, mark my words, interest rates are going to be going up. And I think we don't know when that's going to happen, but it's very likely that that is going to be happening. And if interest rates go up, your monthly payment goes up and your buying power goes down. So it still is a good time to buy. As a seller, yes, it is still definitely a good time to sell. Like I said, 60% less homes on the market than this time last year. And that is a really huge number. What that means is that there's going to be, it very well could be a bidding war, which means that you could really capitalize on your investment for your house and move on to your next property. So there you have it. Still is a good time to buy, still is a really good time to sell, and there's no indication that there's going to be any change in the market at any point in time soon. If you have any questions, make sure that you drop a comment below and I'll make sure to answer it. Otherwise, you can email us directly at team@tailoredrealtyteam.com. That's all I have for you today, everybody. This is Rebekah with the Tailored Realty Team, and I hope you all stay well. Have a good day.